Hi, obviously I'm not an artist, and this vlog I'm going to be displaying and discussing Space Marine power armor and armoured suits. One of the most obvious characteristics of a Space Marine are their power armor, made from ceramite, an ultra hard fakey material that in theory is too tough and dense to be mobile, but due to the wearer having an organic film under the skin called a black carapace, and some high-tech ancient plugins sunk into the Marine's body, it gives them the exact same movement as if they were in nothing at all. There is a difference between the Firstborn and newer Primaris in the types of armors and armoured suits that they can wear. Let's start at the beginning with the Firstborn Marines. Marks 1 to 5 are armor marks from Warhammer 40k was a tabletop game. There are models for these, but they are more niche and don't belong to dedicated units in any systems currently. However, they do have some cool names. Mark 1 Thunder, Mark 2 Iine, Mark 3 Crusade, Mark 4 Maximus, and Mark 5 Heresy. Mark 6, or also known as Corvus armor, which is Latin for raven, has led them to be affectionately known as beakies or wombles. The helmet here has a medieval knight type look. The armour is pretty much how an Imperial Space Marine looked like at the start of 1st edition Warhammer 40k. For reasons I'm unsure of, I decided earlier to go with this armour on my fast attack units, such as Bike Squads and Assault Marines in 8th edition. Mark 7, also known as Aquila armour, due to the iconic chest crest, was the status quo for Space Marines right up until the advent of 8th edition and the introduction to the Primaris Marines. It served for so many editions and gave the Marine its silhouette that is so easily identifiable. The Tactical and Devastator Marines are still clad in this, but it may look like their time is nigh, as the Stern Guard veterans and Assault Marines who were originally clad in this have been replaced with Mark 10. Interestingly, the Blind Bag Heroes Season 1 and 4 had Space Marines in Mark 7 armour, but have had their dimensions increased, specifically in the legs, as they had long been critiqued for being squat and not representative of a 7-foot tall superhuman, which Space Marines are supposed to be. Mark 8, also known as Errant armour, is a strange one, as the chest armour is lengthened at the head opening to provide additional protection to the neck and lower helmet. I'm unsure what this is for. If anyone knows, please leave some information in the comments below. The Mark 8 never actually replaced the Mark 7 like many armour marks did before it. Artificer armour are innate and ancient relics issued to only the most elite or decorated battle brothers. Artificer armour is tougher than power armour, giving the bearer a 2-up save rather than the standard 3-up. Examples of this type of armour in a Blood Angels force would be an enhancement attached to a standard commander character or the Sanguinary Guard. 2 torsos are included in the Blood Angels upgrade non-Primaris sprue. I have attached one of them to my 8th edition Smash Captain, which was once the pride of my force, but now desperately needs a glow up. That would be a cool video to make. The armour is also infamous for its more realistic form of the human body. Anyone know how does chiseled abs and nipples provide more protection on a suit of armour? Tactical Dreadnought, more commonly known as Terminator armour, and like power armour has 7 different patterns, is a far thicker plate, but unlike power armour, it was originally created for use in hazardous environments, and then adapted for warfare. Often being the most appropriate option when attempting to reclaim Space Hulks. Space Hulks, you may recall, are monstrous space-faring bodies, potentially full of ancient technology and deadly Xenos. All are antiques and are rumoured to have a slither of the Emperor of Mankind's armour inserted into the stone relic mounted on the left shoulder pad known as the Crux Terminatus. In the game, this gives Terminators on the tabletop a toughness of 5 and a 5-up invulnerable save. The most common type of this armour is the Indomitus pattern. It's frequently seen in a lot of promotional material, and after the Mark 7 and 10 power armour is probably the most common silhouette of Space Marines. Interestingly, I've frequently seen comparison to the helm of the Indomitus pattern to that of a sleepy hippo. Tartarus and Cataphracti patterns are even more ancient and were frequently used during the Horus Heresy, and now referred to as relic Terminators. I only have one to display here, which is a Terminator captain in the Cataphracti armed with Combi Bolt and Chain Fist. This was gained in an issue of Warhammer Conquest. It was also painted some time ago, certainly before I learned the importance of thinning paints and applying smooth base coats. I'm happy with the gilding though, as this may be the first time I recognise that silver is an effective edge highlight for gold. There are more armour types and patterns for the Firstborn Space Marines, but for the moment, with the models I have built and painted, that'll do. But before I finish with the Firstborn, I want to discuss and display some Warsuits. Warsuits can be confused with dreadnoughts, but they are mortally wounded Space Marines interred in Warsuits as opposed to being operated by a healthy specialist pilot. These are Centurion War Suits, armoured Space Marines in more Space Marine armour. Their look is divisive amongst 40k fans. They are definitely the Marmite of the Space Marine model range. I personally really like them though. The Centurions can be fit into either the fire support, Devastator, or close combat, assault role. If designated as a Devastator Centurion for long range shooting, they are equipped with either Twin Heavy Bolter, Twin Las Cannon, or Grav Cannon. If designated as an Assault Centurion for anti-armour melee, they'd be equipped with Siege Drills, which seem to be the only damage 3 close combat weapon in 10th edition, on each arm, and either a Flamer or Melter Gun attached, and either a chest-mounted Hurricane Bolter or Assault Launchers. With a toughness of 7 on the tabletop but a very slow movement, this is not an issue if wholly shooting, but for an effective melee threat they need to be taxied in a vehicle with an assault ramp, like a Land Raider, but they do take up the space of 3 standard Space Marines. I have another 3 Centurions built, but I've been wrestling with what to do for a colour scheme. I'm torn between doing another Blood Angel 4th Company squad in either Assault or Devastator, or in the Blood Angel successor Flesh Tearers colours of Black and Crimson. If you'd like, please comment below to help me make a decision here. That wraps up the Firstborn armour marks, moving on to Primaris. I personally don't recall the release of 8th and the advent of the Primaris, as I didn't return to the hobby until mid-8th edition. I picked up the First Strike box and built and painted the 3 Intercessors and 3 Reavers, then decided I liked the process and wanted to buy more minis, and bought a box of Tactical Marines. It was then why I noticed that the minis from the First Strike box were considerably bigger than the Tactical Marines. I mailed my friend and he explained the situation. So painting Primaris Marines is easier because they're bigger. Yes, but it also takes longer. This is of course if you paint using the traditional base shade highlight method. Obviously if you're using contrast or speed paint or techniques like slap chop, it's probably about the same. I previously stated that Blood Angels Marines have different coloured helms based on their battlefield role. Red for battle line, blue for fire support, yellow for close assault, and gold for veteran and command. This is unique amongst other chapters, but very appreciated, as it is often easy for newer players to confuse units due to the volume of Mark 10 Tacticus on Primaris Marines. For example, Intercessors and Assault Intercessors look very similar, but perform different actions in games. Just for reference, the following Space Marine units are clad in Mark 10 armour: Intercessors, Veteran Intercessors, Assault Intercessors, Jump Assault Intercessors, Infernus Marines, Hellblasters, Desolation Marines, Stern Guard Veterans, Lieutenants, Captains, and Ancients. That's a lot of possibility for mistaken units. Phobos armour is a lighter Spec Ops style type. It provides the same level of protection, but is less bulky and has silenced moving parts such as the servos that enable the armour's joints to be movable. Similarly to Tacticus armour, Phobos has several different types of Marines that equip it, such as Infiltrators, Incursors, Reavers, and Eliminators. The Phobos Marines have less diverse battlefield roles, as they all revolve around guerrilla warfare. It can often be harder to identify them apart, as a lot of these units are bareheaded or only equipped with a rebreather. Infiltrators and Incursors are especially difficult to spot. The box art, and therefore to be Codex compliant, would have the Infiltrators with red helmets, but the Incursors with yellow rebreathers, and I just can't seem to not see this as some sort of nerf accessory. Reavers and Eliminators are easy to differentiate though, as the Reaver has a skull helm similar to a chaplain for scare tactics, and the Eliminators as snipers are cloaked and sometimes hooded. Painting camo on cloaks is apparently very easy, as there are many tips and guides, and all you need is the ability to paint basic shapes. As you can see, I've yet to attempt this though. Generally, painting Phobos armour is very similar to Tacticus, but the knees are more difficult as they're a more pronounced sphere. Gravis armour is the thicker plate worn by aggressors, eradicators and heavy intercessors, improving the Space Marine's toughness to 6, meaning that they're tougher than Terminators. Painting Gravis armour is not too dissimilar to painted Tacticus, but with additional plates. I like it. Aggressors are strange as they are in the fire support discipline, but are armed with either low strength, low range multi-shot bolters and grenade launchers and double power fists, or low strength flamethrowers and double power fists. This seems like a close assault profile, doesn't it? However, they are fire support, so blue helmets for them then. Omnis armour is an odd one, as it's somewhere between Tacticus and Gravis, and has an attached jump pack. It's only equipped on 2 units, the Inceptors and the Suppressors. Both units have the ability to fly and deep strike, meaning that they need armour that can be able to withstand the stress of flight and a rapid descent from space. But both units have different roles, though Inceptors have short range multi-shot double assault bolter or double plasma exterminators, and Suppressors have long range more damaging autocannons. Interestingly, the Suppressors have never had a single unit release, but rather are only available in box sets like the Vanguard Spearhead attachment or Warhammer Imperium, which is where I got my 6 from. As you can see, I'm yet to paint them. The 5 Inceptors were from eBay and were painted some time ago, hence the darker red of them. This also seems like a good opportunity to discuss how universally disliked the flight stands are, and I'm yet to see anyone defend them. There are many different ways to overcome their terribleness, using polymer rods or thick wires, or just attaching them directly to a base, but I elected to green stuff a magnet into the flight stand end and adhere another with super glue under the jump pack of the Mini. And rounding us out is the Invictor Tactical War Suit, a repurposed Redemptor Dreadnought chassis with stripped down armour and modified to fit a Space Marine pilot where the sarcophagus would normally be. With a strong power loader from Aliens vibes, its battlefield role is that of a stealth dreadnought. As in the lore, it has silent running pistons and actuators, so it can infiltrate into enemy territory before the conflict begins. Yes, I know the idea of something this massive sneaking around is very silly, but then so is lots of things in 40k. The Warsuit is armed with either a twin autocannon for distance shooting or an Incendium cannon for closer range pyromania. It also has a modified heavy bolter as a sidearm and a top-mounted grenade launcher. It can also crush with its power fist in melee. I mounted the heavy bolter to its thigh with a small magnet. Building it was a chore, and I regret not giving it a more dynamic pose. The cage that secures the pilot in place was very spindly, and I did snap it at one point. Due to this, I have now glued it shut to prevent it from taking any further damage when handling it. It's never done particularly well in games, and is often destroyed in the first turn. If someone can give me a heads up how successfully to use this in the comments, it'd be much appreciated. And this is all the Space Marine power armour and armoured Space Marines I can discuss and display up to this point. May was absolute trash for output for me, and it's probably the longest I've gone between uploading videos. But thanks for watching. Please continue to like, comment and subscribe as I continue to chronicle the collecting, construction and creating.